Hello and welcome back to Life on the Wrist. Hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be looking at a really beautiful military watch from Bulova. The reference is 3818A, manufactured in 1962. Military watches are a subsection of vintage watches that enthusiasts love to collect. The obvious reason is that each military watch likely tells a different story. It has been on adventures that perhaps very few wearers would have the opportunity to go on, and they may have seen things like battlefields or been worn during times of significant change in the world. With these adventures, it's inevitable that the watch might have taken some knocks here and there, which have developed unique patina for each individual piece. An additional reason why watch enthusiasts love military watches is typically the watches have very clear documented manufacturing specifications, and this makes it easy to track, authenticate, and understand the history of the watch. And so Bulova is one of the watch manufacturers that worked really closely with the US government and have produced significant watches, or significant military watches throughout their histories. So the typical process for when a government has a need to produce for a product is that they publish a specification for an item, like a watch, like what you see in front of you right here, where they detail what the item would need to include. Let me try to get this to focus a little bit closer for you so you can really see the details of this piece. As you can imagine, specifications for watches typically include things like shock resistance, waterproof cases, and legible dials. Is at this point when a government sort of lists those specifications, and then what happens is manufacturers will submit proposals to the governments, who will decide on who will win that specific contract. Bulova has a long history of working with the US government, most famously through their A-11s and A-17 watches. These were World War II era watches manufactured for use during the war, and Bulova's relationship continued after World War II, and one of the watches they produced was the 3818A, which is the watch you see in front of you here. The 3818A was manufactured from March 12th, 1956 to October 17th, 1962. The watch is very similar to the A17A from Bulova, which was practically identical. But the 3818A was created for the US Army, Navy, and Air Force under the purpose of general use, while the A17A was designed for military pilots. The watch you see in front of you today was manufactured in 1962 based on the M2 marking on the movement. We'll come to the markings on the watch more later, but that's the easiest way to sort of document when this watch was manufactured. It has a stainless steel anti-magnetic case that is 32 millimeters in diameter, and in my opinion, in excellent condition, with very little signs of polishing. If you look at the side of the case, you'll see the brushed finish and extremely sharp edges all over this watch. You just get the focus so you can see it here. So if you look on the sides, you can see the brushed finishing on the case. Really, really nice condition. And as I said, very few signs of polishing. The lugs are thick, sharp, and long, which makes this 32mm watch wear a little bit larger than what a typical 32mm watch would wear. The watch has, as you can see, this really large, unsigned crown, which can be described as oversized. It definitely ensures that the wearer can make adjustments easily to the time, and would be a normal specification, I think, that many military watches would have, so that it's easy to use. The watch really has this, one of the outstanding features of this watch is this incredible black dial with printed dial text, including a 24-hour display for the time. So as you can see around the outside of the watch, you have the first 12 hours of the day, and on the inside of the dial you see hours 13 to 24. The watch has cathedral hands with lume that is aged really nicely and match the hour indicators, making it likely that they are original to this watch. What's really cool about military watches, obviously, is what you can discover with inscriptions. So we can move on to sort of what case markings tell us about this. So I think the first very obvious inscription on this watch is the inscription on the case back. So as you can see, it says wristwatch, which describes the item that the US military ordered. Then we have MIL-W-3818A, which describes the specifications of the watch the US government commissioned. It then says serial number A7881. This is the serial number for this specific watch. Then we have the stock number, and the stock number is the number of the watch used by the manufacturer. It then says Bulova stock number 10BNCH, which describes the movement that is actually used inside of this watch. You then have the contract number, which is associated with Bulova's work with the US government for this specific watch. And then you have US, which describes the fact that it was built for the US government. So from this, you really have a pretty easy way to track exactly what this specific watch is. And if you marry it up with indicators on the movement, you can make sure it allows individuals to document the history of this specific watch. If you remove the case back, additional markings can be seen. So on the inside of the case back, it's stamped with Star Watch Case Co., stainless steel. If you don't know, Star Watch Case Company was founded in 1899 in Elgin, Illinois in the USA. They eventually moved to Michigan in 1906, but produced watch cases for many US-based watch companies, including Bulova and Elgin. It was very common during this era for watchmakers for companies to outsource the production of parts of their watches, including the cases. It appears that Bulova, based on the stamps on this watch, worked with Star Watch Case Company to produce the cases for the 3818A. With the case back off, one will be able to see the movement. Interestingly, the 3818A has a dust cover that went over the movement, but when you remove that, you will be able to see the movement, which is the caliber 10 BNCH manual wind movement. This caliber was produced in two variants, one with 17 joules and one with 15 joules. The 3818A had the 15 joule caliber, while other military watches that use the same movement, like the A17A, had 17 joules. The movement, of course, is built to be banged around. The movement is extremely robust and includes a hacking seconds feature. So, as you can see, the seconds hand is currently ticking. But if I was to pull out the crown to, let's say, reset the time, you can see that the seconds hand has stopped. And when I push it back in, it continues. So it basically allows for accurate time changes. The watch focuses on water resistance and shock absorption. It's in its design as well. On the movement, you'll be able to see the Bulova name, caliber number, and jewel count, as well as the M2 marking, which indicates its production in 1962. So as I mentioned, the watch is 32 millimeters in diameter, and so when you have it on your wrist, it does look a little bit smaller, but with the longer lugs and the fact that they're kind of thicker features on this watch, I think it actually wears really nicely. It is, in my mind, the quintessential sports watch of the era, and at 32 millimeters obviously fits into the style. What's really interesting is looking at this watch, I kind of am looking for a bezel insert, but I actually kind of like the stainless steel look, and it gives it really a nice military feel to it. With all the information that one can find about a watch, or I guess one can discover about a watch, military watches are such a fun group of watches to discover. They document important relationships watch companies had with militaries throughout the world. Additionally, the military styling of these vintage watches can be enjoyable to wear even in today's setting. They're robust in build, meaning wearers don't need to be too careful with them on, and allow them to be worn in many different settings. But features like the cathedral hands and the patina still give the watch a very romantic feel, and I think that's why it's kind of a great watch and can be worn in so many different environments. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at this really beautiful Bulova. I think military watches, as I mentioned, are a really easy way to sort of get into watch collecting because they have very clear documented histories, and with all the numbers, including serial numbers, contract numbers, it's very easy to sort of validate the originality, but also track their history. So as an example, the serial number that I have on this watch, you can really find where this watch has been, if it's traded hands a lot, and so you can really do that with many other military watches if that's sort of what your styling is into, or I guess your collecting is into. But as I mentioned, I think this is a really beautiful example in great condition, and I think it's a great example of what military watches can be, but also a nice way to get yourself into vintage watch collecting. As always, there will be an article on lifeinthewrist.com. There will be a link in the description of this video to the article where you can see more pictures of this watch, and also pictures of, for example, the inside case back, and as well as the movement which we spoke about during this video, so you can kind of see them as we describe what we're seeing on the inside of this watch. So be sure to check out the article. There will be a link in the description as well for you to go and check it out. Let me know what you think about this watch. Let me know if you collect military watches. My question for today is exactly that. Do you collect military watches? What's your favorite military watch? Do you find that these Bulovas are the ones that you sort of go towards? What's really nice, I think, about Bulova military watches is they're relatively affordable. I think there are other military pieces out there that are fairly expensive, but these are a really nice place to sort of collect, and you can get a lot of different variety in the pieces. So really love what Bulova did during this time period. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and share this video with a friend who might be interested in watches, and if you wouldn't mind liking this video, it really does help me out. With that said, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time.